Hi, I'm Sydney and welcome to my Flock and Squawk, and it has finally happened. I finally got some Amish Friendship Bread Starter. So this is on day 10, which means that we get to feed it and maintain it and bake bread. So I'm going to do that with you today. I'm going to be baking multiple items which will each get their own video. So just follow along. This video is going to have the maintenance included in it. And then from that, this creates 1 to bake and then 4 starters. Or you can bake a total of 5 things. Or, 4 things, which is what I'm planning to do. So I only have 1 starter left to maintain. So here it is in a Ziploc. Connor's mom graciously gave us both some. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So for the Amish Friendship Bread, the starter has a 10-day cycle, which you maintain over the course of those 10 days. You feed it twice, and on the 10th day after you feed it, you can bake or gift it around. So I'm just pouring it out into a bowl. The biggest stipulation is that you do not want to use any metal utensils because that can kill the yeast that it has. So I'm just squeezing it out of the Ziploc into a big glass bowl. So for each starter bag, you use about 1 cup of starter, and a lot of recipes stick to about 1 cup, which means that by day 10 you have 5 cups of starter, or the friendship bread. So I just squeezed it all out into a bowl, and it's very simple measurement wise for what to feed it. 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of sugar, and 1 cup of flour, and you mix and you're ready to go. So during this portion I will have the 10-day cycle instructions listed on screen, but I will also have it in the description along with where to find a PDF with more information. So I've got my cup of milk. Just pour that right in. My cup of flour. And my cup of sugar. Now we mix. So a lot of the 10 days is just mixing up the starter and letting any air that has gathered, collected, started in your Ziploc or container out of it. And you never want to refrigerate the starter because that can affect the yeast, and you never want to use metal utensils. So those are the big 2 rules. But for the most part, it is very easy to maintain, just lives on the counter, it gets fed, and it grows into this giant bowl of goop. Alright, so I got this mixed up, and I have my big bowl here. I've got a new Ziploc because the other one was very kind of gross. But new Ziploc, and I'm just going to put 1 cup into here. Typically, if you're gifting it and not making 4 batches of something, you would just put more into other Ziplocs, a cup in each, and you could gift them or maintain them that way, but it does grow very rapidly. So I'm just going to take a cup and put my goop in the Ziploc. This will be my starter to maintain. So here it is, and a lot of people will write on their Ziploc what day it's on. So there's my starter to maintain, and now we can get into baking different breads. So in this video, I'm just going to be baking the most basic bread, which uses a cup of this. and we're just going to go from there. I plan on also making a morning glory bread, which will be in the next video, and then after that it will be probably an oatmeal cookie recipe, which will be in the video after that. So if you're just now finding this, it'll be in its own Amish Friendship Bread playlist to hopefully make it easiest for everyone to find it. So yeah, let's just get straight into the bread recipe. So I got this bread recipe from the instructions that came with my Amish Friendship Bread Starter, which is 3 eggs in addition to 1 cup of Amish starter, 3 eggs, 1 cup of oil, half a cup of milk, a cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons cinnamon, half a teaspoon vanilla, 1.5 teaspoons baking soda, half a teaspoon salt, 2 cups of flour, and 1 large dry pudding mix pack. And then you use cinnamon and sugar on the outside of the bread. So I'm going to adjust things here, and we are going to mix that all up, bake it, and see how that turns out. All right, so I have my mixing bowl, I have my starter, and we are just going to start mixing things together. I'm going to do all the wet, and then I'll add the dry in after, which some people like to add the wet to the dry, but I kind of like the wet first, so that way there's no dry clumps just chilling at the bottom of a bowl. So I've got my 1 cup of starter, half a cup of milk, one cup of oil, 3 eggs. Oops. And then we're going to give this a whisk, all of our wet. It's looking a very pleasing yellow shade. Now I'm going to add in the sugar. Now let's do some of the drier ingredients. Instead of plain cinnamon, I'm going to use a little chai spice for the inside of our bread, a splash of vanilla, so I just did 3 scoops of a half teaspoon each. And let's mix this all together. And 1 large instant pudding. So a lot of these recipes call for pudding mix, which I thought was pretty interesting. That pudding is such a key ingredient for a lot of them. There are recipes for Amish Friendship Bread that do not require any sort of prepackaged pudding. Just whisk that in. Now, last but not least, we are going to add in our flour. So it's 2 cups of flour. I have my half cup measure. So 1 cup, 2 2 cups. It's thickening up quite nicely. It was a very loose batter, and now it's getting closer to a quick bread. Now that this is all mixed together, I can prepare my baking pans. So I have my 2 loaf pans, and I'm just going to use a baking spray. Now it's time to divide. Alright, so I've got it divided up fairly well between the 2 loaf pans, so we will see. But let's take a sneaky little taste. The batter itself doesn't really taste of a whole lot. There's definitely like a vanilla, almost cake batter like taste, but it's not too wild. Obviously it's just the most basic recipe, which is why it was included with my starter. But yeah, I'll sprinkle cinnamon sugar on top and we will see how it bakes up. And in the meantime, I'm going to clean the kitchen and yeah, meet you back here after it comes out of the oven. The recipe itself says around 50 minutes to an hour. So I will see you then. So my loaves of the first Amish Friendship Bread have just come out, and for the next video I put in the mini loaves of Morning Glory bread. But look how beautiful this is. It took, like the recipe said, right about 50 minutes-ish, give or take. But it puffed up fairly well, or rose fairly well, because I filled these about halfway and it filled to the top. And initially I was a little concerned on how much they would rise because it looked kind of sad filling 2 loaf pans like that. But I'm just going to let these cool and then we will give them a taste, give them a look over later. The toothpick came out fairly clean from the one, so I'm thinking that just the residual heat in their pan and everything should be good. So I will see you in a bit for these. Ooh, soft. It almost looks like pumpkin bread inside with the color. Alright, so here is our finished loaf of the recipe that came with my starter. And I cut a few slices and I'll just take a little taste test. It has cinnamon, sugar, and a little bit of spice in it. But it looks really good. This one sank a little bit, so I'm thinking maybe it didn't quite get fully baked on the inside. This was the larger of my 2 loaf pans, but it's good. Could probably use more cinnamon sugar on the actual inside, but it's got a nice texture, very like almost banana bread, but a little bit more of the crispy side, which makes sense. I got the very end, but it looks delicious and I think it's pretty good. I'd probably opt for more cinnamon or pumpkin pie spice actually in the bread if you're gonna do cinnamon sugar. But thank you so much for watching. The next video will be morning glory muffin, not muffin, but mini loaves. And then the one after that will also probably include some of the Amish Friendship Bread. So check out the playlist that I'll have started if you're watching later, or stick around for next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!